Welcome to Element 115 Conspiracies. I'm Michael, and this is my co-host Bracken.
Hello.
So we just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the phenomenal feedback we got from our last episode. We've actually got some subscribers, some new subscribers. We had shares, and we actually had a lot of feedback.
We actually have our first user-submitted topic tonight.
We do. So we have an exciting episode. First, we're going to touch on the user-submitted topic. We're going to hit on some Nazi Germany conspiracies.
Which is very exciting.
It is.
It's
and
really cool.
Something I've been a fan of for a long time. I've have a lot of books on it. Complete nerd over it.
Yeah.
And we're going to tie the episode up with two users' experiences with the paranormal, UFOs. And this is actually interesting because it ties back to some experiences that I've had.
That actually we covered in earlier podcasts.
That we covered last season.
Yeah.
All right. So actually, we're just going to go ahead and kick things off. And don't forget, we're on Podbean, we're on SoundCloud, we're on iTunes and Facebook. So element115.podbean.com, and Facebook is Facebook / Element115 Conspiracies.
And Michael will also post the links somewhere.
Yeah, I post links somewhere. I will. Yeah.
Just in case he does.
All right.
Okay, so enough shameless plugs.
All right.
We're going to go right into our first user-submitted topic. Basically, they want to know if religion was used by a higher source or the government or someone to kind of control our progression as a society. They basically want to know if when we first started off, when we were very primitive,
okay,
just starting to break our teeth in, if you will, on our evolutionary stage. Now, whether you believe in creation or you believe in evolution, you have to believe that we did evolve as a species. I mean, look at the pictures back then. We've gotten better looking. We've gotten more athletic. I mean, everything's kind of went our way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you mainly want to ask here is, when you go back to there, people were basically living like savages.
They were.
They were murdering each other. They were stealing. I mean, rape. Everything was just awful.
There was no control.
There was no control.
It was anarchy.
It was anarchy. And basically, some people believe that the government or maybe an alien, even like an out-of-this-world being, came down here and was like, whoa, you guys are just living way too out of control. Let me kind of give you guys a way to live. And who's to say that, like, because that mind was so primitive, who's to say that the God that came to visit them wasn't an alien and they just couldn't comprehend it? I mean, if it came down in like a UFO, of course they would think of fiery chariot because that's the kind of transportation they use and they would refer to it as that.
Speaking of that, Ezekiel, in the book of Ezekiel, he described a flying disc coming down from the heavens with multicolored lights.
Yes. And I mean, also a lot of, also in the Bible, it also mentions dinosaurs, which a lot of people, there's a huge, which that's a whole nother episode. I'm just throwing it in there. The main thing is, though, that we want to cover is...
And these aren't our views, by the way. We're attacking this from both sides. We're not going to tell you what our beliefs on the subject is.
We never do. We keep it right in the middle.
But it is a very interesting subject. I mean, are we being controlled? And, I mean, it all ties back to a conspiracy, which is what we're here for.
Now, a lot of people were saying that when Jesus or Muhammad or whichever God you believe in came down to earth, that they were a benevolent human being. They were someone who showed love and compassion to everyone. They went around and they were prophets, as in the fact that they witnessed like good stories, like good parables, like, hey, you should live your life like this. Now, as far as that, it's been proven there was that Jesus existed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been proven he was a prophet. Now, his godliness, his appearance, none of that was proven. They can't do that scientifically, but...
Which is based on faith.
Yes, which is based on faith, yeah, I'm just saying here. Now, this kind of goes to show that with even these men, they were put up on a pedestal. And because people started following them and striving to be like them, that was a good thing back then. I mean, the Bible gives you very simple rules. Mm-hmm. Do not steal. Do not kill. Do not, covet their wife or your neighbor's wife. I mean, very general rules that are actually good to follow. I mean, they're not bad rules. Now, I do believe that the Bible has been changed over time. I do believe stuff has been added in and stuff. Because the Bible was written by men. And I do believe it's been changed to fit agendas.
Yes.
I do believe
organized religion.
whatever the religion wanted to attack, I believe was added into the scripture or taken away. And I believe it was so low key that people really didn't pay attention to it.
There's a lot of crazy things that has been omitted from the Bible. If you think about it, a lot of conspiracies about the Vatican actually having books that's not in the Bible that
actually tell of Jesus as a teenager and on. The stuff is missing because in the Bible, if you read it, and I mean, whether you're a religious person or not, if you're into anthropology, if you're into the history of man, you generally read the Bible. That's another cliff note. Mm-hmm. Religion is such a big part of our evolution, whether it was for good or bad. It was still a big part. And I do believe that when churches started in their earliest form, at their rawest, I believe they were there to spread the word and to be there and help. Now I believe a lot of churches worldwide have went more to money-making schemes.
Oh, no, they have.
I believe that they're more about getting money than they are trying to improve people's lives. And the thing is, if you're a Christian, if you're not a Christian, if you're whatever religion you are, if you go to these masses or if you go to church or if you go to a meeting, you expect to feel some kind of enlightenment from the message. If you're leaving there empty and your wallet's empty, what's that saying about the church?
Exactly.
And like I said, I'm one of the biggest critics of religion ever. You can ask Michael.
Yes,
I have a lot of questions about it. There's a lot of things I don't understand. There's a lot of things that I question very regularly. And one thing I believe is that a lot of times I believe it was changed. I believe that agendas were pushed. I do believe the Catholic Church did take some books out of the Bible, and they are hiding some things to fit their religious point of views.
Well, going back to the Catholic Church, that's the whole reason that we have so many different branches of the Christian church is because the Catholic Church was charging money for unnecessary things.
I mean, your pension cost money back then.
Dating back to Martin Luther, and
the Lutheran, the breaking off into Lutheranism, and then John Wesley breaking off into Wesley, which that was years later. But anyway, to stay on topic here and not ramble, because me and Michael are bad about ranting.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, whatever. The main thing with this discussion is, yes, we do believe there is some control aspects of this.
Yeah.
If we can answer the question.
Do we think that all organized religion is bad? Absolutely not. But I think that certain aspects of it is used to control different agendas in the world.
Now, you cannot tell me with a straight face, and if you believe this, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy. You cannot tell me churches like Westboro Baptist Church that spew hate and want to picket soldiers' funerals and stuff. Whether what you stand for by the government having wars or putting soldiers on the field, they are doing what they are told. They are not going out there and doing this on their own.
Right.
There's no way you should portray them in the media as being bad or try to picket their funerals. That's just disrespectful.
It is.
And I mean, I'm the first one to say fuck the government, but I am going to say let's be respectful of our fellow man.
No, exactly.
I mean, that's just like me or you going to battle and dying. I mean, that's just a tragedy. Mm-hmm. And I hate the fact that wars are fought for greed now, or for religious reasons, not so much religious freedom. I believe that anyone should be able to worship what they want to. Mm-hmm.
No, I agree.
What someone believes doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I think that if what you believe in makes you a better person and it makes you strive for better greatness for yourself, then I believe then religion's doing its job. Mm-hmm. If you're using it to make money, push agendas, doom everyone you know to hell or to try to be a judge, then no, I don't agree with that. Nope. I say get the fuck out of here. I mean, that is not right in any way, shape, or form.
No, I agree. And so going back to the question, organized religion as a conspiracy, maybe. I think that it was built on
good intentions.
And just like anything else that humans get a hold of, it becomes flawed.
Well, it's because they ruined it. Just like everything else, I hate to sound like a broken record. I really do, because I feel like I say this a lot. Everything comes back to money.
Yeah, it does.
If they were changing Bible verses and tones in the Bible to make it more profitable for them and their organizations, then yes, I do agree.
So let me ask you a question. All right, so this is something, I read an article on this, this was a couple of months ago. As far as, now we're being taught that all religions tie together. One world religion. Do you think the government would be pushing the one world religion, because if there's a one world religion, that's more bank.
Well, yes and no. Let me give my two theories on this. One, yes, I understand what you're saying. They're trying to say now that whether you read the Quran, the Bible, if you read, if you're into Buddhism, whatever your religion is, they're all saying that this good prophet who came and witnessed was the same man. He just had different names in different areas, which kind of makes sense because a lot of the Genesis of all of these books are almost the same. They almost kind of have similar stories, similar parables, and all these books are there to give you examples. And do you know what they say about history? The number one thing about history, it's there so that man will not repeat the same mistakes twice.
Right.
We have history so that we can look at our past and say, hey, that's a bad idea. Hey, that's a good idea. Just general, that's it. Simple as it gets. I believe that religious history kind of look at it that way as well. Mm-hmm. It starts off really pure, and I think it got diluted through the system.
Yep.
I think it got watered down. I think it changed. I don't believe that any man is greater than any man. I don't think no one should be condemning another man to hell. I don't think that's Christ-like, which is the definition of Christian. Mm-hmm. I do believe that, back to the one world government, there's two ways I could go, like I said. If all these people, they unify this and say, hey, this is basically the same guy. Why don't we all come together? Once again, I don't know if the government would do that because, A, they're not making any money off that. The government really...
That would almost eliminate religious wars.
Yeah, but think about it too, though. The government really doesn't make money off churches or tax-free. So the government... Well, I'm saying the government really doesn't care about churches in that sense or form. They're not using them as... that money that comes in is... you don't see where a lot of it goes. And that's when you get the crooked churches with the crooked pastors, which is a bad situation. I'm not condoning it.
Yeah.
But, you see it worldwide. You see how many churches fall. Or you see all these agendas being pushed behind doors. And then once it actually gets out in plain view, everybody realizes, hey, we should have never put this guy on a pedestal. He's a man just like you and me. We're all striving to be better people, or should be. That should be the general direction your moral compass takes you. Now, as far as this question, this was a good question. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I don't really know. We could go farther into it. We could go into how the Vatican apparently took, relations between Jesus and Mary Magdalene out of the Bible. We could take out how they said that Jesus had children and actually had a bloodline. I'm
going to go into even bigger conspiracy, Project Bluebeam.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a secret project so-called NASA is working on to stage some kind of second coming of a religious figure or an alien invasion to unify everyone. So that'd be a good topic for a later show.
Yeah, well, that we have talked about how that could tie in and how that could all wrap around, but it just mainly comes down to when you're talking on religion, it's such a broad topic.
It is.
We don't really want to have to take 3 or 4 episodes to delve into each aspect of it.
Yes. So
we're trying to kind of just give you guys a broad spectrum. And we kind of discuss this stuff the same way me and Michael would discuss it, just hanging out, going right at it full force. Now, our next topic's actually a really exciting one. I'm not trying to segue too quickly, and we do appreciate the question.
Nazi Germany.
Nazi Germany.
Right. So I have a lot of books on this, like I said earlier in the episode. This is something I've watched tons of documentaries on. Very interested. Hate the Nazis, which you probably should.
Well,
let's say this
as a disclaimer.
Right.
Hate the Nazis' point of views and what they stand for. It's okay to just be in awe of how technologically great they were.
Right.
They were ahead of America, so advanced. If we wouldn't have had the help we did during the war, there's a good chance we would all be speaking German right now.
So let's go back. So everyone knows about the Roswell crash in 1947. So let's rewind back 11 years.
Okay.
In 1936, a UFO crashed in the Black Forest in Germany. All right, so apparently when they arrived at the crash site, of course they treated it like a potential threat.
Yes, they didn't know what was going on.
They didn't know what was going on, so there's a lot of speculation that this happened or it didn't. but they recovered 3 bodies, and they said that they were of gray colors. Hence, where the term "grays" come from. So
Das
if you
Greys.
Das Greys. So if you don't know what the Greys are, they're the most popular. They're the most popular type of alien. They're in all pop culture.
That's the one you generally see, like when you see them like appear on shows like South
Large
Park
head,
or
big eyes, and not trying to get off topic. I was watching something today talking about Australian history of UFOs, and they found a cave, and it had what looked like grays drawn in the cave, and they dated that back like 18 to 20,000 years.
You told me about
That
that's
is
crazy.
most written history for mankind. Only dates back 12,000 years. So
This kind of predates written, like
it does.
written mandates.
It absolutely does. So they said that the aliens had no form of weapons on them, or the Greys, except a little box. What the box is, I don't know. But they recovered these. And they said that Hitler actually used this craft to reverse engineer, and he eventually used it for war purposes, World War II. So it's very widely known Hitler was a madman when it came to weapon experimentation.
Well, I mean, you could almost not that he was, but his maniacal attitude toward the whole aspect of it, it was almost mad scientisty for real.
Yeah,
Some of the stuff he tried, like putting animal limbs on humans, like trying to make hybrids.
Yeah,
he
messing with genetics.
Trying to dye eyes different colors, causing blindness, causing people to go insane. I mean, he experimented with LSD. He experimented with methamphetamines. And then it shows right here that he not only did that, but he was reverse engineering alien technology.
Okay, yeah, so he was trying to create what he called the wonder weapons.
Wonder weapons.
And it's really crazy because I've talked with my grandpa about it. He was in the military. He's big into military history, and he told me that Hitler was truly a madman. And towards the end of World War II, he had the most brilliant minds in the world working for him. And Nazi Germany, like the Nazis.
Well, let's kind of go back here. He had the most brilliant minds in the world working for him. Some of them were there working against their wills, though. These people did not voluntarily work for the Nazis. They were like, hey, if you don't come reverse engineer this, what I need, like your specialty, your family's going to go missing. Your land's going to be burnt. I mean, it was like threatened. These guys weren't like voluntarily, let me go help the Nazis.
So, stories of anti-gravity weapons, which we're going to dive into heavily in a moment. And also, saucer-type devices. And I'm going to try to throw up a picture of what they believe to be an actual Nazi UFO.
And also, if you follow the page, you actually posted a picture of one they found.
Yes, I did.
So they could actually...
So he experimented with all types of things. There were reports of saucer-shaped disc that would fly amongst the planes during World War II. And these would emit an EMF signal out, and it would actually jam weapons. It would cause their enemies' planes to crash.
Well, basically what those EMFs do is they send out a bomb explosion without the explosion. It's just a pulse. And what that pulse does
electromagnetic field.
It actually burns them down.
It disables electronics.
Yes.
All right, so he had this. And then the most famous Nazi weapon of all time is called the Die Lock, okay? Which is, if you want to speak English, it's called the bell. All right, so I never get this guy's name right. So his name was Igor Witkowski.
That was
all right,
Witkowski.
Igor Witkowski. All right, so he was a journalist, and he was almost like a fiend with Nazi weapons. All right, so he studied it for years. He strived
to make them more powerful. That was his job.
No, Igor Witkowski was actually a journalist. So what he did was in the 90s, he met with a Polish intelligence agency. All right, so they let him translate some old German documents, and that's where he come across the Die Glock. All right, so the Die Glock was a pretty, I think it was 9 by 15 feet, something like that, pretty sizable. There's actually a coordinates on Google Earth, and I will throw it up. Coordinates, you can actually go to where they believe the test site for the Die Glock was. So the Die Glock was, it's kind of shunned in mainstream
Yeah, they kind of
history,
kept it.
but it's kind of become like an occult following for people with conspiracy theories.
Well, the thing is, too, in history classes for your children, I'm just saying they do not glorify Nazi or German propaganda at all. I mean, that was a dark time when Hitler was like running it, so you really don't hear about the brilliance of the Nazis. Not saying their views, but their intelligence and their inventions.
Right. So there was some Third Reich scientists that were working on this. Igor actually said that like 5 of the 7 scientists that were working on this died of radiation poisoning. It had 2 rotary devices that spun in opposite directions. Now, there's a couple of different theories behind what the Die Glock's intentions were, and a lot of conspiracy theorists, amongst myself, think that it was going to be used for more sinister purposes.
Yes.
It wasn't just some bland experiment that Hitler was working on because he thought it was interesting.
No, not at all.
All right, so it was actually powered by a mercury-like substance. I think it was Xerum-25. It was like a blue mercury, and it had these opposite rotors that spun in different directions. Now, a lot of people believe that it was an anti-gravity weapon. It would emit radiation up to 600 feet. They said that it would turn plants into a grease-like substance. It would poison anybody within that distance.
Now, wouldn't scientists get like sleep deprivation and
They would get
dizziness?
sleep deprivation, dizziness. I mean, they would get literally like super sick over this. So a lot of people believe that they were trying to invent a time machine, or they were tampering with anti-gravity propulsion, which is what is powered with UFOs.
Yes.
All right, and actually, there's a really interesting thing I'm going to mention in a moment. So, the Die Glock ended up missing. No one knows where it was. The last time that they kind of thought about where it was either in the mountains near Czechoslovakia, which was a Nazi base, and there was also a not-named Nazi-friendly country in South America. And it's also widely believed that the U.S. acquired it. Because let's think about this. This is proven that after World War II, we actually brought over all these brilliant German scientists that worked with Hitler.
Because we wanted to know what they knew.
NASA.
Yeah.
All right? So that's a whole other subject, whether I think NASA has good intentions or bad intentions. But let's fast forward and say, all right, the U.S. acquired it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 11 years after all this happened, in 1936, their crash, we had the Roswell incident. Well, it is now known that some of the same Nazi scientists that
Who
were
reverse engineered.
that were at the 1936 crash was at the 1947 Roswell crash. All right, so why would we bring those scientists there?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Now, with knowing that the scientists who reverse engineered were actually at Roswell,
Mm-hmm.
do you believe the ship that crashed in Roswell was a U.S. government ship that was a replica of a German The Bell? Or do you believe that it was actually an alien or an extraterrestrial?
So I'm kind of torn now that I've done a lot of research on this. Were we visited once? They crashed. Because I don't know if you know anything about the Black Forest, but the Black Forest in Germany is kind of a phenomenon in its own.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stories.
So my
love to do
mom,
an episode on that.
My mom actually would be a good source. My mom lived in Germany for 5 years. She's been to the Black Forest. She was a military brat. My grandpa was based in Germany. And so let's fast forward further after Roswell. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to try to throw up the bell. Or already did. So there was a crash in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania in 1965. The sketch drawing and the model that they have from the Kecksburg crash looks very, very, very similar to the Bell.
Yes.
So did we acquire it, try to build our own? And all along that we thought that this was aliens at the Roswell crash, it was actually our reverse engineering. But then again, it kind of weirds me out because if you look at some of the symbols some of the symbols on the bell are the same as the Kecksburg UFO.
Yes.
And I don't know what the symbols mean. I've never really looked into it that much. But it's pretty crazy stuff. It almost makes you kind of like wonder. It's like, is it German? Is it aliens? Did aliens come down and make a pact with the Germans?
You never know. And I mean, it could have been a mutual man-to-alien agreement, or this could have been they found the ship that crashed and we just basically reverse engineered their technology, like you said.
Mm-hmm. So, very crazy stuff. I really encourage you guys. I mean, like I said, I am not condoning like the Nazis, but their technology was miles ahead.
Yes.
You got to think, like I said, with
and that even goes to show, like if you look, it was like 36 that happened. Then Roswell happens. Then what happens after that? We go through our atomic age. All of a sudden, our weapons start getting stronger, and we start using, chemicals and substances we never really thought about using to make weapons out of. And then it even evolves even farther. I mean, look at how weapons are still upgrading. How do we still not know that maybe Germany or America is not still in contact with aliens, and we are still getting their technology to reverse engineer? Because, I mean, think about it. I mean, honestly, if me and you were in the 1950s right now, and somebody walked up to us with an iPad or an iPhone, and was like had music, movies, everything, saying the service was around back then.
Well, yeah.
Say, come up to you, you would be like, it would be like alien technology. You would not know how, and that's every day to us. It's funny because like now when you see like kids and teenagers now, when they see the old TVs or the boxes, it's just kind of like they don't even know what it is anymore.
So I'm going to end on this theory because this is my favorite theory about the bell, is that it was a time machine. So because it rotates in different directions, it was powered by this Zerum-25, this substance that they created. A lot of people think that it actually had the ability to create wormholes.
Yeah.
Or actually
open up small black holes.
Exactly.
Interdimensional, basically.
Black holes, they exist everywhere. They pop up momentarily, actually milliseconds, and disappear. So my favorite theory is that they used it. Hitler never died. Is that he actually
escaped through a wormhole.
Escaped through a wormhole.
They never found his body.
And he's somewhere in time.
Yeah.
He could be now. There's actually a really funny movie on Netflix. It's about Hitler being alive now. So, and going back to like Hitler's thing, I'm reading a book now called Secret Machines by A.J. Hartley and Tom DeLonge of Blink-182, or Angels and Airwaves. And in this, a guy's going on a military mission, and he has one of these saucer-shaped discs jam his weapons.
Yeah.
And that actually prevents him from completing his mission, and men died because of it.
Yeah, he wasn't able to travel or even get there. That's kind of crazy to think about.
So, anyway, so Nazi Germany, great subject. I don't condone the Nazis, but their technology was absolutely brilliant.
And the way, like we said, just the way they acquired it. Now, what we're going to do here is we actually have a couple of user-submitted stories, which we strive for. We want you guys to send us more and more feedback. We want your stories. We're not going to use names or put anything out like that, but we are actually going to tell the stories.
All right. Yeah. So I actually we got a message, one of our viewers, and
actually one of our regulars.
One of our regulars.
Yeah.
And he's actually from around here. All right. So he was over near, and I'm going to name drop it, Broadway Lake area.
Yes.
That's around here. So the reason I mentioned the name is because I had an experience at Broadway Lake about a year ago.
And like we said, we covered that in Season 1 if you'd like to hear about it. It's actually Season 1, Episode 3, if you'd like to check it out.
So he says he's going down the road. It's pitch dark. There's no street lights. There's no cars.
If you know the Broadway Lake area around here, for you people not familiar with the area or the terrain, it's a really dark area. They don't have a lot of lighting around there,
no
spotlights, anything like that.
So a lot of farms, just very bland.
Very rural area.
All right, so he says he's going down the road, and he sees 3 very, very brilliant flashes of light into his car, and it almost like it shined into his wife's lap. And he's like, at first, I thought I was crazy. Then he looks over at his wife, and she just gives him this blank look.
Like, what the heck?
All right, I saw it too. So he says that he turns around, and they go back, and it doesn't happen again. He said at first it was so bright, like he literally thought he was being pulled over. And he said that just these 3 light flashes blinked in, and then it went away. So, going back to why I find this interesting is about a year ago, I was actually around the Broadway Lake area, and it was right around dusk, and I saw this silver-shaped
And that's all
anomaly.
you get. You have to go back to watch.
Yeah, a silver-shaped anomaly in the sky. It came out of the clouds. I was like, hey, that's a plane. It didn't look like a plane. So I followed it. And it was moving decently slow so I could follow it. Well, it kind of stopped over Broadway Lake. And at that point, it was starting to get dark. And it was just this light, and it was just hovering over Broadway Lake in the sky. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't there. Now, I know a plane doesn't just stop. It wasn't a helicopter because I stopped, rolled my windows down, you can hear helicopters.
Yeah.
Helicopters don't fly that high. So I just thought it was very interesting that
area.
That someone that watches the podcast or listens to the podcast, watches the videos, had an experience in the same area we did. So thank you for that. Thank you for that and letting us tell it on air. We did get permission to tell the story.
Now, another one that's actually kind of interesting we got from another viewer who's also, I think he watches the podcast regularly as well.
Right,
Very
he's
good dude.
actually out in California.
Yeah, he's actually in California, yeah, a lot. Now, with him, this kind of goes back to even our episode 2 about the Top Hat Man. Interdimensional beings kind of crossing over. He actually woke up one night, correct?
Yeah, he saw 3 shadow figures outside of his window, and he said that he blacked out and after he saw the 3 shadows.
And then he has no recollection of what happened, which is actually kind of a reoccurring event with shadow people. You actually, whenever you have them abduct you or you have an encounter with them, a lot of times it has shown that you do pass out and lose time. What do they do to you? What are they thinking? Like, what's their intentions? Are they just monitoring you? We still don't know what shadow people are. And going back to our religious conspiracy before,
are they aliens?
We've even had people talk to us before and say, what if shadow people are what people conceive as demons? And they come out to get the people who need to go, it's kind of a weird way to think about it.
Yeah, and he experienced the same thing I did. Go back, watch season 1.
If you haven't listened to season 1 yet, we guys really encourage you to go back and listen to it. You can kind of get our vibe, how our podcast goes, kind of how we look at things, so you can kind of be caught up with us, because we do back reference a lot,
right?
Because we have a lot of stuff we want to get out there, and we want to be able to, the way we can reference stuff to each other, we want to be able to do that with you guys. So if we drop this reference right here, you guys know what it is. And also, we just want to say one more time, thanks again for the user submissions. We really appreciate it. We love the fact that you guys have been giving us feedback, likes, subscribers. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Now, what we're going to say in closing here is if you guys have any questions or if you have any topics for next week, send them to our Facebook page.
Or drop them in the comments section on the YouTube channel.
That's right. You can do that. And also, all of our links he will post he'll either post them on here where you can click them, or he'll put them in the comment section.
Yep.
Or not the comment section, the detail section. Whatever, you know what I mean. And basically, I think we're about done here.
Yeah, I think so. So, see you guys later.
And remember, the government hates you.
Yes. And remember, aliens may be living among us now.